My name is Devin Ellis. I'm 29 years old, and most people in the tech world know me as the founder behind one of the fastest growing AI supply chain platforms in the country. But at home in San Diego, things have always been different. My family still sees me as the one who never quite measured up. For years, they've laughed about my little hobby. That's what they call the late nights I spent building code instead of joining the family investment firm like everyone expected. They'd shake their heads and say I was wasting my time on something that would never go anywhere. I got used to the comments at family gatherings, the pitying looks, the suggestions that I should just settle for a normal job. It stung, but I kept my head down and kept working. Now my brother is about to get engaged, and the whole family is buzzing about the big dinner they've planned. They made it very clear I needed to be there, no excuses. I already know how these nights go. Someone will bring up my so-called hobby again, and the table will fill with the usual jokes. They have no idea what that hobby has actually become. If you enjoy real family stories with unexpected twists, do me a favor, hit that like button right now, drop a comment telling me if your family ever doubted your dreams, and subscribe so you don't miss what happens next. I read every single comment. A few days later, the phone rang while I was wrapping up my workday. I picked up and heard my brother's excited voice on the other end. Devin, you won't believe it. I just asked Erin to marry me and she said yes. Daniel Ellis sounded happier than I had heard him in years. He went on about how they had been dating for almost 2 years and how this felt right. He told me Aaron Brooks worked as a director of operations at a major tech firm and that the family was already planning a big celebration dinner at a rooftop spot in the Gaslamp Quarter. See, before I could even congratulate him, he added, Mom and Dad want you there. No excuses that this is a family thing and we need everyone to show up and look happy. I could hear the expectation in his tone, the same one he used whenever he reminded me I was the only one who hadn't followed the family path. Just then, I heard another line click in. It was my father, Robert Ellis. Devin, your brother told you the news. Good. We booked the rooftop table for this Friday night. Aaron's family will be there too, so dress appropriately and try not to bring up any of your usual topics. His voice carried that familiar mix of command and disappointment. My mother, Susan Ellis, joined the call a second later. Sweetheart, this is important for your brother. We don't want any awkward silences. Just smile and be supportive like the rest of us. I sat there holding the phone, feeling the familiar pressure settle in my chest. Daniel jumped back in, laughing. Come on, Devin, it's not like you have anything better to do. Erin's really looking forward to meeting the whole family, and she's heard a lot about you already, and I tried to keep my voice steady. Congratulations. Daniel, I'm happy for you. The words came out automatically, the same way they always did when I wanted to avoid another argument. My father cleared his throat. That's settled then. We'll see you Friday at 7 sharp. And Devin, leave the laptop at home. This is a dinner, not a coding session. My mother added quickly, we love you, but we also want this night to be perfect for your brother. Just be normal for once. I listened as they went back and forth about the menu and the seating arrangement, making sure I stayed quiet on the line. Daniel mentioned how Erin had already picked out a special bottle of wine for the table and how the restaurant had a great view of the bay. He sounded proud, like everything in his life was falling into place exactly as planned. I finally said, all right, I'll be there. The relief in their voices was immediate. My father told me again not to be late. My mother reminded me to wear something nice, and Daniel thanked me like I had just done him a huge favor. When the call ended, I set the phone down and stared at the screen for a long moment. The next few days passed in the usual blur of work meetings and late-night adjustments to the platform. I kept my routine the same, but the thought of that dinner kept pulling at the back of my mind. I knew exactly what to expect: the smiles, the questions, the subtle reminders that I was still the one who hadn't quite made it, yet I had already decided I would go, sit through it, and leave as soon as it was polite. On Friday afternoon, I stood in front of my closet choosing an outfit that would satisfy my mother's idea of appropriate. I picked a simple black dress, nothing flashy, and laid it out on the bed. The reservation was only a few hours away. I slipped on the dress, checked the time, and grabbed my keys. I walked into the restaurant and the hostess led me straight to the rooftop table. Then everyone was already seated under the string lights with the bay sparkling in the background. My father, Robert Ellis, sat at the head of the table and smiling wide as he gestured toward my brother. There she is. Daniel, tell everyone again how you popped the question. Aaron, you have to hear this version. Daniel Ellis laughed and launched into the story and his arm around Aaron Brooks the whole time. My mother, Susan Ellis, leaned in, eyes bright. She's perfect for him. Isn't she smart, successful, and from such a good family? We couldn't have asked for a better match. Aaron smiled politely and thanked her, but my mother wasn't finished. She turned her gaze to me and added, Devin, you should take notes. This is what happens when you focus on real priorities instead of chasing that little hobby of yours. The word landed exactly as I expected. My father nodded along. Exactly. Erin here is a director of operations at a major firm. She understands business. Maybe she can give you some advice on finally doing something useful with your time. Before I could respond, my Aunt Janet Brooks spoke up from across the table. She had flown in for the occasion and clearly felt entitled to join the conversation. Oh, I remember when Devin was younger, always glued to that computer instead of joining family events. Susan, remember how we used to joke that she'd still be playing with gadgets while the rest of us built actual careers? Janet laughed like it was the funniest thing she had heard all night. Susan joined in, patting my hand across the table. We only say it because we care, honey. Look at Daniel and Aaron. They have direction. They have plans. You could learn a lot from them tonight. Daniel grinned and raised his glass. Come on, Devin, don't look so serious. Oh, Erin's been telling me how much she loves the tech scene here in San Diego. Maybe you two can talk about something normal for once. Erin glanced at me with a small, curious smile, but stayed quiet. My father kept the momentum going, turning back to Daniel and Erin. We're so proud of you two, the way you've built your lives, the way you support each other. That's what family is about. Janet jumped in again. And Devin, sweetheart, you really should think about coming back to the firm. Your father could find you a nice desk job, something steady. No more of this wandering around with your little projects. Susan nodded enthusiastically. It would make these family dinners so much easier. We wouldn't have to worry about what to say when people ask what you do. I kept my hands folded in my lap and listened without interrupting. The comments kept coming, one after another, each one wrapped in that familiar tone of concern mixed with amusement. My father told another story about how Daniel had closed a big deal last month. Susan described the wedding venue they were already scouting. Janet offered her opinion on everything from the menu to the guest list. The waiter finally appeared with the first course, placing small plates of seared scallops in front of each of us. The conversation paused for a moment as everyone picked up their forks. The scallops were barely touched when my father, Robert Ellis, set his fork down and looked directly at me. Devin, Erin has been asking about your work. Why don't you tell her what you've been doing with all that time in front of the screen? He said it with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. Susan Ellis quickly added, Yes, dear, Erin is in operations. She might have some real insights for you. Daniel Ellis chuckled and leaned back in his chair. Go ahead, Devin. Show us what the big plan is these days. Last I heard it was still just some side code you mess around with after hours. What? Janet Brooks jumped in right away. I always tell Susan that young people today waste so much energy on things that never pay off. Remember that phase you had with those apps in college? Same story. At least Daniel built something solid at the firm. She gestured toward my brother as if he were the example everyone should follow. I kept my expression neutral and answered Aaron directly. It's a platform that helps companies manage their supply chains using AI. Nothing too exciting for dinner talk. Aaron tilted her head, genuinely interested. AI for supply chains, that's a huge space right now. What kind of features does it have? Have you integrated predictive analytics yet? Before I could say more, my father cut in. See, Aaron, that's exactly the kind of question Devin needs to hear. Predictive what sounds like fancy talk for something that probably won't make any real money? Devin, if you spent half that energy helping at the firm, we could expand our client list this year. Susan nodded along. We've offered before a nice entry-level role with benefits. Stable, respectable. Instead, you keep pouring hours into this little project that nobody understands. Daniel smirked and added, Yeah, and the way you dress tonight proves it. Come on, sis. Erin's here looking sharp. You could at least try to match the occasion instead of showing up like you just left the office. Janet laughed softly. Daniel's right. Erin, you should see the photos from last Thanksgiving. Devin showed up in jeans while the rest of us dressed properly. We love her, but she makes these events harder than they need to be. Erin tried to steer the conversation back. Actually, I'd like to hear more. Supply chain optimization is something my team deals with daily. What's the scale of the data you're handling? My father waved his hand. Scale Devon probably has a few dozen users at best. It's a hobby. Erin, sweet, but let's not pretend it's serious business. Daniel closed 3 major accounts last quarter alone. That's the kind of work that builds a future. Susan reached over and squeezed my arm. We just want what's best for you, honey. Erin could introduce you to people who matter if you'd only listen. Janet kept the pressure on. Exactly. Stop hiding behind that computer and join the real world. Your father has a desk waiting. No more excuses about chasing ideas that go nowhere. Daniel raised his glass again. To real achievements. And to Erin, who actually knows how to turn ideas into results. The table murmured agreement while I sat quietly, letting the words wash over me without reaction. The waiter returned to clear the appetizer plates and set down the main courses. The main courses arrived, plates of grilled salmon and herb-crusted chicken filling the table with fresh aromas. Erin set her knife down and looked across at me again. Devin, you mentioned supply chain AI. How do you handle real-time tracking across multiple vendors? My team struggles with integration issues every quarter. Her question was calm and professional, carrying real curiosity. I started to answer briefly when Janet Brooks interrupted. Erin, honey, you're being too kind. Devin's little experiments don't reach that level. She's been tinkering for years and it's still just a personal thing. Susan, tell her how Devin used to skip family vacations to stare at code instead of spending time with us. Susan Ellis sighed dramatically. It's true. We tried everything to guide her. Private tutors, business classes, even offering a position at the firm with a starting salary most people would kill for. But she always chose her own path. Now look at Daniel and Erin, engaged, successful, building something together. That's what stability looks like. My father, Robert Ellis, leaned forward. Exactly. Erin works with actual companies that generate revenue. Devin, if your project was anything serious, you would have mentioned investors or clients by now. Instead, we get vague answers about features. Come on, be honest with the table tonight. Daniel Ellis laughed and jumped in. Dad's right. Remember when you tried to explain it at Christmas? We all nodded politely, but none of us had a clue what you were talking about. Erin, don't let her fool you. It's cute, but it's not real work. Janet kept going without pause. I've seen this before with other nieces. They chase dreams until they're 30 and then regret wasting their best years. Devin, you're almost there. Take the desk job your father offered. Stop pretending this hobby gives you purpose. Erin tried again, her voice steady. I'm serious, though. Predictive analytics in logistics can save millions. What's your user base like? Have you stress tested the algorithm under high-volume scenarios? The table fell into awkward silence for a second before my father filled it in. See, even Erin is trying to make it sound important. Devin, just admit it's a side project and move on. We all know the truth. Daniel closed another deal this week that brought in serious money for the firm. That's the kind of progress we celebrate in this family. Susan reached for her wine glass. We only push because we love you. Devin, Erin could open doors if you'd stop being so stubborn. Imagine actually contributing instead of hiding behind a screen every night. Janet nodded vigorously. Precisely. Family dinners like this should be about shared success, not listening to excuses. Your brother has a fiancée who understands real business. Learn from her tonight. Daniel raised his glass once more. To people who deliver results. Erin, thanks for putting up with our family quirks. I continued eating quietly, responding only when directly asked and keeping answers short. The conversation swirled around me with more stories about Daniel's achievements and Erin's impressive career. Erin occasionally glanced my way, her expression shifting from polite interest to something deeper, but the others kept steering every topic back to familiar territory. The waiter circled back to refill water glasses and check on the table. The waiter had just stepped away when Erin leaned forward slightly, her eyes fixed on me with growing intensity. Devin, the way you described the platform earlier, it sounds familiar. What's the actual name of the company? I've been following several AI logistics startups, and one in particular has been making serious waves in the industry. I paused for a moment, then answered evenly. It's called Nexus Flow Systems. Erin's fork stopped midway to her mouth. Her expression changed from polite curiosity to sudden recognition. She set the utensil down carefully and stared at me. Nexus Flow. You're the founder behind Nexus Flow Systems. The table went quiet. My father, Robert Ellis, looked between us, confused. What's going on? Some tech thing. Erin ignored him and continued, her voice rising with excitement. I've been trying to get a meeting with the leadership team for months. Our firm has been tracking Nexus Flow because your predictive routing algorithms are cutting delivery times by nearly 30% in pilot programs. The anonymous founder everyone's talking about, that's you. Daniel Ellis shifted uncomfortably in his seat. Erin says, so come on. Devin's project is small. You must be thinking of a different company. But Erin shook her head, pulling out her phone quickly and opening an article. No, this is it. Bloomberg ran a piece last month calling the founder a hidden billionaire in supply chain tech. The valuation hit over $400 million after the latest funding round. And the CEO is listed as D. Ellis. She looked up directly at me. Devin Ellis, it's you. You're the one who built it from a solo project into one of the most admired platforms in Silicon Valley circles. I've been recommending your technology to our clients for weeks. Janet Brooks let out a nervous laugh. That can't be right. Devin. Our Devin. She barely talks about her work. Susan Ellis's face paled. Erin, dear, you must have the wrong person. Devin has been doing her little side things for years. Nothing like what you're describing. My father cleared his throat loudly. Hold on. 400 million. That's impossible. Devin, explain yourself right now. I met Erin's gaze calmly and nodded once. Yes, it's me. I've kept it quiet because I wanted to focus on the product without the family pressure. Erin's eyes widened further and she stood up slightly, extending her hand across the table in a professional gesture. Boss, Ms. Ellis, it's an honor. I had no idea I was sitting across from the founder I've been studying for months. The word boss hung in the air like a thunderclap. Daniel's face drained of color. My father's mouth opened, but no sound came out at first. Susan looked from Erin to me and back again, her hand trembling as she set down her wine glass. Janet tried to recover. This has to be some kind of joke. Devin couldn't possibly, but Erin cut her off politely yet firmly. No joke. Nexus Flow is revolutionizing the industry. The entire tech community in San Diego and beyond has been trying to figure out who the genius behind it is, and it's been Devin all along. My father, Robert Ellis, finally found his voice, though it cracked slightly. $400 million. You're telling me our daughter has been running a company worth that much and never said a word. Daniel leaned forward, his earlier confidence shattered. Erin, you're serious. She's the one all those investors have been chasing, the one whose platform beat out 3 of our biggest competitors last quarter. Erin nodded without hesitation. Absolutely. I've read every available case study. The way Devin structured the AI to handle multimodal logistics is groundbreaking. My team has been pushing for a partnership for months, but the founder stayed completely anonymous until now. Susan Ellis pressed a hand to her chest. All those times we told her to get a real job, all those comments about wasting time, and she was building something like this. Janet Brooks sat back, her usual sharp tongue silent for the first time that evening. The color had drained from her face as well. I remained seated, my posture unchanged, and spoke clearly so the entire table could hear. I didn't hide it to trick anyone. I just didn't want the constant judgment while I proved the concept worked. The funding rounds happened quietly. The growth happened because the technology delivered results, not because of family connections. Erin sat back down but kept her attention on me. Boss, if I had known earlier, I would have approached you professionally weeks ago. Your platform is exactly what several of our portfolio companies need right now. The atmosphere at the table had completely shifted. No more jokes about my little projects. No more suggestions about taking a desk job at the family firm. Only stunned silence mixed with dawning realization as the waiter approached again, sensing the heavy tension but unsure how to proceed. The silence that followed Aaron's words stretched longer than any previous pause that evening. Daniel Ellis pushed his chair back slightly, his face flushed. Aaron, you can't be serious. Devin running a company worth 400 million. She's never mentioned investors, never asked for help, never even showed us a single pitch deck. My father, Robert Ellis, gripped the edge of the table, knuckles turning white. If this is true, why hide it from your own family? We could have supported you. We could have introduced you to our contacts instead of letting you struggle alone. Susan Ellis's voice trembled as she spoke. All those nights we criticized you for wasting time. All the suggestions to take a proper job. And you were sitting on something this big, Devin. Why didn't you say anything? We're your parents. We deserve to know. Janet Brooks recovered enough to add her own sharp comment. This changes nothing about how you behaved. Keeping secrets from family is disrespectful. If you had been open with us from the beginning, we wouldn't have had to make those comments tonight. Aaron remained calm but firm. With all due respect, the secrecy was probably what allowed the company to grow without interference. Many founders in this space keep things quiet until the product proves itself. And I finally set my napkin down and looked around the table, meeting each pair of eyes in turn. My voice stayed level, without anger or triumph. I didn't tell you because every time I tried to share anything about my work in the past, it was dismissed as a hobby or a phase. I learned that silence protected the progress I was making. Tonight proved that point again. Daniel leaned forward, desperation creeping into his tone. Devin, come on. We're family. This is huge news. We should celebrate. Maybe I can help with the business side now that we know. My father nodded quickly. Yes, the firm has connections in San Diego finance. We can bring real expertise to the table, that no more operating in the shadows. Susan reached across toward my hand. Honey, we're sorry for the things we said earlier. We had no idea. Let's put this behind us and start fresh. Aaron can even facilitate introductions if needed. Janet added, exactly. Family supports family. You don't cut ties over a few honest opinions at dinner. I stood up slowly, pushing my chair back with a quiet scrape. I'm not looking for apologies or offers of help. The company is already valued at over $400 million with strong institutional backing. What I needed years ago was basic respect, not conditional support now that the numbers look impressive. The table stared at me. Aaron nodded once in understanding but stayed seated. I continued evenly. From this moment forward, I will no longer participate in family events or discussions. The constant judgment, the public belittling, the assumption that my path was lesser, it ends tonight. I wish Daniel and Aaron well with their engagement, but I won't be part of any future gatherings. My father's face reddened. Devin, you can't just walk away from your family like this. We raised you. We gave you opportunities. Susan's eyes filled with tears. Please don't do this. We love you. We were only trying to guide you. Daniel stood up too. Sis, think about what you're saying. This is permanent. You're really choosing to cut us off over some dinner comments. Janet shook her head. Selfish. After everything we've done for you, I picked up my purse, my movements deliberate and unhurried. It's not over some dinner comments. It's over years of the same pattern. I've made my decision. Please respect it. Aaron rose as well, addressing the group politely. I'll make sure Devin gets home safely. And professionally, I look forward to speaking with you soon, boss, if you're open to it. I nodded to Aaron once, then turned and walked toward the exit without looking back. Behind me, the voices rose again in a mix of disbelief, excuses, and frantic attempts to call me back. But I kept moving through the restaurant until the rooftop lights faded behind me. 3 months have passed since that dinner on the rooftop. I haven't answered a single call or message from any member of my family. The silence from my side has been complete. My phone no longer lights up with their names, and the group chat I was once added to has gone quiet after the initial flood of texts demanding explanations. Word travels fast in San Diego's business circles. Within weeks, several investors who had been in talks with my father's firm suddenly pulled out of potential deals. One executive mentioned in a private conversation that associating with a family known for publicly undermining their own daughter's success sent the wrong message in today's competitive tech environment. My father, Robert Ellis, lost two major clients who cited concerns about judgment and family dynamics affecting professional reliability. Daniel Ellis found his own career stalled. A promotion he was expecting at the firm was quietly passed to someone else. Colleagues who once praised his network began distancing themselves after learning the full story of that dinner. Aaron Brooks, to her credit, maintained a strictly professional relationship with me and has since facilitated two productive meetings between my team and her company. She never pressured me to reconcile with the family. Susan Ellis tried reaching out through mutual acquaintances, but I made it clear through a single polite email that further contact was not welcome. Janet Brooks posted a vague social media message about family loyalty that many in our extended circle recognized as directed at me. The responses she received were lukewarm at best. My days now focus entirely on Nexus Flow systems. We closed another funding round last month that pushed the valuation past $500 million. The team has grown, new partnerships have formed, and the platform continues to deliver measurable results for clients across the West Coast. I sleep better knowing the work stands on its own merit without needing approval from people who once dismissed it as a hobby. Looking back, the real lesson from that night isn't about revenge or proving anyone wrong. It's about the damage caused when family members repeatedly diminish someone's efforts simply because those efforts don't follow their expected script. Success built in silence often reveals who truly supported you and who only showed up once the numbers looked impressive. If you're watching this and your family has ever made you feel small for pursuing something they didn't understand, remember this. Your value isn't determined by their opinions or their timeline. Protect your progress. Set clear boundaries when respect is consistently absent, and surround yourself with people who see your potential even before the world does. I chose to walk away not out of bitterness, but out of necessity. Some relationships cannot be salvaged once the pattern of belittling becomes permanent. In the end, peace and self-respect matter more than forced family gatherings filled with conditional love. To everyone still listening, thank you for staying until the end. If this story resonated with you, share your own experiences in the comments. Have you ever had to distance yourself from family for your own growth? I read every comment, and your stories remind me I'm not alone in this journey.